Okay, we're ready to get started. So welcome everyone. Here with Rainbow Eco Science. Today's webinar, Liquid Labor, Innovative Solutions to Manage Landscape Maintenance. Your host today, myself, Mark Lucas. I'm Director of Landscape Solutions. And for Francisco Cecilia, he's the Landscape Horticultural Specialist based here in Florida, works in the Southeast. So when we get started, all of our webinars start with a safety brief. So please, everyone check your surroundings for any trip hazards. If there's any inclement weather forecasts, I don't know of any, but keep them abreast. And if you're in your vehicle, please park in a safe location during the webinar. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Mark Lucas. I'm Director of Landscape Solutions, and I work with landscape professionals around the country on training and education of plant growth regulators primarily, and some weed control protocols. My background is almost 40 years now in the green industry with a degree from University of New Hampshire in environmental conservation. And I'm joined by Francisco. Francisco, please, if you could, just brief introduction for yourself.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. My name is Francisco Cecilia. I'm the Landscape Horticultural Specialist for the Southeast, based out of Florida. What I do is working in education and training of landscape professionals like yourself and your teams, from all the way from management all the way through helping your team leaders on the field be enrolled on protocols and products and on how to integrate it into your businesses. My background, I have over 20 years of experience on the green industry. I have a degree on agronomy from Zamorano University and a bachelor degree from agribusiness from Louisiana State University.
Great, thanks Francisco for working with me today. So just a housekeeping slide. On your screen, usually it's in the bottom, but we have a Q&A box. You can type questions that you have in there, and we'll answer those questions at the end of the presentation. A reminder that the webinar is being recorded, and a link will be sent out after the webinar. And the webinar is worth one ISA CEU. If you didn't enter your ISA certification number during your registration, please type that along with your name into the Q&A box, and we'll make sure you get that covered. So just a little bit about Rainbow. Rainbow Tree Care was formed back in 1976, primarily working with the Dutch elm disease issue that plagued this country. And we work with tree care professionals and landscape professionals around the country. We work with universities developing predictable, reliable solutions for landscape and tree care. So some of the ones we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about two in the landscape world. One of them is called Trimtect. Another one is called Onmark, which is a new, innovative, non-glyphosate alternative. So we work with companies like yours around the country, as well as you can see, many educational institutions. But we're looking for real world situations. The one we're going to be talking about today mostly is on plant growth regulators. So plant growth regulators have been around for many years, decades, and so we do many studies on both tree and shrub growth regulation in order for companies to get predictable results. So we formulated, Cambistat was the first one. Cambistat's been around for many years, and Trimtect maybe about a dozen. Trimtect is a shrub growth regulator. Cambistat is primarily used for tree growth. So today, just to highlight what we're going to be going through, we're going to talk about some tools to help solve the labor issue, how PGRs generally work, timing and results. We'll mention application. I have some enhancement opportunities, particularly with Cambistat I want to cover. We're going to talk about, what's the conversation look like externally. So with your client, we'll review some potential business outcomes for you. Again, I'm going to discuss Cambistat, and Francisco's going to speak to you a little bit about Onmark, which is a again, an herbicide that's new. So, in a lot of Landscape magazine every year, they come out with, the top issues, the state of the industry report. And for years, labor has always been number one. Recently, fuels kind of moved up to that number one spot, but labor is number two. And for my entire career, labor has been an issue, and certainly nowadays the lack of quality labor is hurting, and people are feeling it. So, what are the impacts on labor shortages? Well, there's many impacts that you have, but in the end, it's more complaints. So, and with complaints, that can have an impact on your quality, which ultimately impacts your renewals, which impacts your profit. So it's a vicious curve. Labor is a challenge for all the companies I talk to around the country, and it has been for years. And this is a tool. It's not going to magically solve the labor issue, but it's just one of many tools that you as a company might or an institution might employ to help make up for some of these labor shortages. So just a little bit on plant growth regulators. Plant growth regulators have been around, like I said, for decades, and they're widely used in the floricultural industry. So, your mums, your poinsettias, many of those, when they come, they're so uniform. This isn't magical. They're also treated with some plant growth regulation. One of them is one heavily used is called bonsai. So it's actually the same active ingredient as what we're going to be discussing today. But it's been around for a long time. It's nothing new. And in our world, in the landscape world, we're really looking for plant growth regulators to take out some of these seasonal spikes. So if we're pruning 3, 4, 5, and I'm down in Florida this week, maybe 8, 10 times a year, if we can reduce some of those seasonal spikes and help crews focus on other areas of the site rather than always needing to prune, monthly, let's say. And that's what this is really meant to do. So there's many types of growth regulators. This one here is active ingredient is paclobutrazol. So it's considered a type 2 growth regulator where it's really working on shutting down a hormone that's in a plant that's responsible for vegetative growth. That hormone's gibberellin or gibberellic acid. So, when a plant's normally growing out in the wild and not touched, it has a certain growth. However, when we prune a plant, and we're pruning and, down where I'm at today, I see a lot of shearing. When you're shearing plant, you're stimulating that hormone. The plant wants to grow and regenerate those leaves that it just lost so it can produce food. So these plant growth regulators, in this particular case, we're going to talk about Trimtect, which is the active ingredient, paclobutrazol that's in there. It's going to help shut down that hormone that's in the plant, so it's not going to want to grow as much vegetatively this year. It has some other aspects too. So up at Ohio State, Dr. Dan Herms, years ago, he created this tree energy budget theory. And this is for trees or plants, but basically plants have a finite amount of energy, and they have these 5 buckets that this energy can go into. And biggest part of the energy is into vegetative growth. So what you see up on top, the leaves and the new shoots and the tree growing, but all of these other areas are receiving some of their energy to help with reproduction and root growth and so on. When you introduce paclobutrazol, it does an amazing thing. It actually helps shut down some of that vegetative growth and asks the plant to do some other things. So it takes that energy, instead of growing vertically, it actually, you can see a big part of it is it goes into root growth. So fibrous root production is improved, and some other things like reproduction. So your flowering actually increases a little bit, and your defense compound. So there's a lot of things. So I see someone raise their hand. If you could, Bob, if you could type that into the Q&A, we're going to get to questions at the end. If that'd be great. So anybody who has questions, if you could type those into the Q&A, and we'll get those at the end. So I mentioned there's some other secondary benefits. So the primary benefit, let's say, might be the vegetative growth, but there's a bunch of other secondary benefits. The The plant actually, increases its fibrous root production. It helps with the stomata regulation, so your drought tolerance is improved. We're doing some studies right now on the West Coast, just to see how much water we can reduce, and we're seeing some really amazing results there. So there's a lot of other great qualities. You can see on this top right picture how dark the leaves are. We're going to get just as many leaves. They're just going to be shorter internodes and dark green because of that increased chlorophyll. And flowers aren't really reduced either. So you can see how prolific that bougainvillea flower is. So today's title, we named it liquid labor, just because Trimtect can help out where whether you're short or you want to reallocate labor, you can use something like Trimtect or a plant growth regulator to help do that. So I want to just go through, and I've selected maybe a dozen plants just to show for both Florida and other places around the country, where some of the plants that it could be used on and what it looks like, both treated and untreated. So here's some Loropetalum. This is really common up in the Georgia and the Carolinas. Does really, really well. So this is 22 weeks after treatment. So 4 or 5 months. This is an amazing shot. So boxwood, it does tremendous on. Not that boxwood is prolific, but in terms of growth. But you can see here, this is over a year. This is up in Maryland on a really nice hedge. And this was treated in June, and this picture was taken the following September. So it does really nice. I wanted to point out this, that when you're shearing plants and or boxwoods in this particular case, the lower left here shows that cut desiccated type leaf versus the treated one with a growth regulator. You're going to get nice whole leaves, nice dark green. Actually improves the color tremendously, and the need for pruning in most cases is really limited, or it goes away. This is down here in Florida, and you can see whether it be cocoa plum, there's some firebush, there's a bunch of plants down here in Florida. But what this is showing is just the reduction of biomass needed. I think he shows here that a debris with over 400 square feet of wax jasmine, could fit into a small sack. This is some downy jasmine. You can see on the right here, the flower is prolific, untreated on the left, a foot or 2 or 3 in some cases of growth. This is 12 weeks after treatment. Some of these bougainvillea shots are just amazing. We get great flowering. It's a difficult one to control, but this is 20 weeks after treatment out in San Diego. But you see a lot of that in Florida. Here's some down here in Florida. Again, you can see the treated versus untreated. I'm not exactly sure how many weeks this was, but it looks fantastic. And I wanted to point out roses, although, maybe roses aren't a plant that you pruning very much. In some cases, you want it to stay below a window or off a sidewalk. So at my house, I treated it to keep off the sidewalk a little bit. And the picture here on the left, there's plenty of flowers in there. You just can't see it because the vegetation is covering that up. Whereas over here, the vegetation isn't covering up. So you have the appearance, in this case, of more flowers. Looks great. Here's some sweet viburnum. I think about 5 weeks after treatment. Looking healthy. Some odoratism down in Orlando. This right side here looks nice and tight. You can see just as many leaves, nice color, short internodes, doesn't need to be pruned. I don't know how common this is, but we see this a little bit down here again. This is King's Mantle. This was an amazing shot. I took this a couple years ago. This was 6 weeks after treatment. Here's some ligustrum. Again, looking really well. This is 6 months basically after treatment. Some clusia, pitch apple. Again, almost 6 months over in Naples. Firebush does wonderfully. Actually, Francisco took this picture when he first started with rainbow. And you can see, the particular site, they want it looking tight. And you can see how dark green the foliage is there. It looks Looks really nice. Iliagnus is a really tough plant. So I see this in the Carolinas a lot. And actually, I'm from Maryland, so this is up in Maryland and Virginia a little bit. But I see this along the coast of Carolina. This is 19 weeks later. And it's a bear to treat. It really creates a lot of 4 or 5 foot shoots sometimes, and it's a mess to clean up if you have that. I love this plumbago. Excuse me. Again, there's just as many flowers probably within this shrub here on the left, but there's no vegetation and it's working well. So again, 24 weeks after treatment, looks fantastic. I'm sure the homeowner's very pleased with the result there. Raphiolepis, they not that they need a ton of pruning, but oftentimes, and I'll show you the next slide, they can look a little disheveled from some of the disease that they get. So you can see here how nice and dark the rafts here look here compared to the untreated side here. But what I wanted to point out was this is actually in a fungicide family, so it's in the same family as like Banner Max. Trimtect is, or paclobutrazol. It's in the Zol family. So, if you have Indian hawthorn, you're likely to get this Entoposporium leaf spot. And, with Trimtect, which again acts almost like a fungicide for these plants, you're going to have a much healthier looking, robust plant with great flowering. So it works really well on this particular plant. I want to highlight just a few ground covers because it's not just for shrubs. It works on shrubs, ground covers, and vines. In this particular case, this is actually up in Delaware. This company sprayed the outer edge here. This is 4 weeks after treatment, as well as the tree ring. So they sprayed like a foot around and got nice control of that particular plant. Down here in Florida and Texas and other areas, we have a lot of jasmine. So it's going to work well on your jasmines. And one thing that we have a city of North Augusta. It's been using Trimtect for, I think, about 4 years now. They really like the reduction in waste, right? So that's it can be a big expense for some companies. We have some companies out west in California, Arizona, and that's a huge savings for them. If you can reduce the biomass and the waste that you're cutting off, that's just becoming more and more of an expense, especially in these robust, fast-growing markets. People often want to know, what's the ROI? Is this going to cost me money, break even? I will say in general, people are showing that people have done, and we've done a lot of studies, anywhere from 50 to, let's say, 70% labor savings. So a reduction in labor. So if you're spending on a site maybe 10 hours on a given occurrence, we confidently can predict that you're going to be maybe half of that, the first time you go out there. So instead of 10 hours, it might take 5, but that gives you a ballpark is what this is going to produce for you. It's definitely going to reduce the need for pruning on the shrubs that you call back, and with that comes a lot of other great advantages. So now that we've kind of gone over, and maybe some of you want to try or are in the process of trying, but you can't just buy Trimtect and magically make it be implemented into your business. Rainbow actually works with companies on training and support, and actually will go out there and show you how to mix it and apply it. But there's also some other important parts of this, which is working with your teams and your crews, your pruning crew and your application crew on, now we've purchased something, we want to get started on using the product. And with that, I want to hand it over to Francisco, who's going to talk about job site preparation and incorporating this into your business. So Francisco?
Thank you, Mark. So just as important and how the science of the product works and how you can use it, it's very important to understand how we integrate it into the business. So part of it is going through the job site preparation. So as far as the job site management, the first thing we all want to make sure we adjust our hours, our estimates, or any tool that you use to track your hours, or how you create tickets if you use something like Aspire, for example, or any ticketing program on your business. So you want to adjust those estimates to reflect the reduction of the hours, so you can also offset the investment of the operation and set aside a percentage for your profits that you are looking for to get. So that is key to start with, and it's part of your planning. What you're going to be starting to do as you integrate Trimtect is you're going to start going away from doing full trimmings on the properties. You're going to start to do shorter visits. You still will go to the properties, maintain the properties. You still have to take care of the weeds. You still have to take care of those dead leaves on the ground and clean up the beds. But Trimtect, what will help you with is reducing the biomass that you have to remove from the plant. It's going to be very minimum to, in some instances, not much at all or nothing, depending on how long ago you treated the plant. So ideally, you want to win somewhere between 30 to 50%, depending on how aggressive you want to be with your wins. But there is room to do that. And also that is guided by the species that you have in your properties that will promote that. So what is involved? Jumping into the next section here. You're going to be working on scheduling your treatments. This involves your teams, your maintenance teams and your spray teams that you are going to be assigning to take care of these tasks. So they need to be on sync prior to the treatment on when they are going to be doing the preparation of the site. When I talk about preparation of the site, it's a light tipping and shaping of the plant material that is required for the treatment. And also you're going to be doing the maintenance post-treatment. So those crews need to be educated on how to maintain those plants moving forward with your PGRs on place. In this case, Trimtect, there's a defined line of how much you want to cut off or not cut off of the plant, so you can actually extend the longevity of that PGR in the plant, setting aside enough savings for you at the end of the year. So also we work with you on the crew conversation. So there's many times when you are doing applications, you will run into homeowners that are wondering, what are you doing? What are you spraying? So there's a lot of benefits that Trimtect provides. We will cover that in the next few slides, but there's a lot of benefits that you can share with your customers aside from saving labor, because they do receive a lot of benefits as a result. So the scheduling. So the maintenance and application team really need to be on sync. It's very simple, actually. It's basically the application needs to know ahead of time when the maintenance team is doing the trimming, so they can schedule their application a few days later after the pruning was done. Typically, you are doing a regular maintenance pruning. You are not doing reductions, hard cuts, things of that nature, which will work with you on when you are getting access to Trimtect. So we will share with you all those little details and help you train your teams accordingly, so you can have a well-functioning oil machine getting this product out there. So in preparing the job site, basically you're taking a plant that is unshaped, like you have on the left side. You want to shape that plant to your customer expectations, like you have on the right. So removing all that shoot growth and making sure it's shaped to expectation. In this case, it's a regular hash, sort of a square, and that's what the client is looking for here. Some instances, like the background, there is a ligustrum tree that is shaped like as a lollipop, and that's what you're looking for as a shape. So whatever that shape is expected of your client, that's what you want to have it at the day of treatment. Very important when you're doing the shaping is avoid having hard cuts and pruning. And I wanted to talk a little bit about application time. So the application timing is key in between the pruning and the treatment. So that's is what you want to have is fresh, active growth where the meristem is present on the plant, and you want to have that fresh flush there. So that's why it's important not having haircuts in it. After the treatment is done, we're going to be doing the tipping or scape management. So is anything sticking out outside the shape? For example, this ligustrum tree in Palm Beach Gardens was treated 12 weeks before this, and it has only like 4 scapes or shoot growth that is coming through. That's the only thing that the crew actually need to spend time on as far as pruning. And this is on a pool deck. So I can go in as a maintenance person any time of the day with hand pruners and a small bucket without intruding into the pool area where people is having sun tanning and just enjoying their day off, and having that taken care of at any time, any day. You don't have to rush from the office, leave 30 minutes earlier to get there before they start the swimming classes, for example. So many of these places have extracurricular activities like that. So it's very important, just very easy, not time consuming. The next one is actually on that same location, and it's around that clubhouse, and it's a Podocarpus pringle. So very lightly tipped, doesn't need any pruning at this moment. I will leave it as is. That has been under regulation. Actually, at that point, they have been doing treatments over 3 years at that point. We have a Dorfixora. This is for Meyer 16 weeks after treatment. So this property is was at the time on the second application through ever with Trimtect. So I want to talk about a little bit about blooming plants. So the flowers is not that the plants produces more flowers. It's like the vegetation, vegetative growth is regulated, is staying within the shape of the plant, and then it's not overpowering the flowers that are being produced. And actually the flowers get a chance to develop fully before they actually get pruned off from the plant in the typical landscape operation. So this is part of why you would like to use something like Trimtect. So as far as customer expectation and conversations that you can have with them. So number one, the product increases the production of chlorophyll and helps the ability of the plant making more food. It turns the plant greener as a result because you have more chlorophyll in the plant. The plants become more drought tolerant. So if you actually have areas, you have your irrigation system that goes down for a few days, those plants are going to tolerate that stress a little better than the ones that were not treated. And it also helps with the suppression of diseases. So as the plant produces compounds that helps disease suppression throughout the use of Trimtect, it will help combat that part. It's more effective on flowering. We just talk about it. So flowers are going to be actually visible and more present. Noise reduction. So the one advantage on an HOA is that they are not going to be hearing that gas here going from 7:30 in the morning, 8 in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon when those guys are leaving that property, because they are using a lot of hand tools. And when that gas shears go on, it's going to go off for a little bit of a time only. So it also helps with the pollinators as you have increased flowering or the illusion of having increased flowering on your plant material.
Excellent conversation there.
Yes, and
Francisco. So
going into the possible business outcomes. So what do you want to, what do you do by using these tools is, number one, you're going to be reducing your labor costs. That's the main goal of using any of these tools in your business. But it also gives you a competitive edge compared to your other competitors in the area. Your properties are going to be looking at sharp with high quality. Yes, you're going to reduce over time. That's part of your labor savings and cost, but it also helps you increase renewals because your properties are having good quality. They're looking good, consistent throughout month to month. And bottom line, it's going to help you profits at the end of the year. Thank you, Mark.
thank you. Awesome. That was great, Francisco. So want to touch a little bit about some enhancements. So also as I go around, labor is a challenge, but also everyone's looking for alternatives, enhancement opportunities. So, the main ones that we all see are, some hardscape, some new flower beds, some new pots around the pool, replacement of dead plant material and so forth. But I wanted to point out that, one that we like to talk about, and we think the landscape professional and certainly the tree care professionals been using is Cambistat. So Cambistat, again, has been around for a long time. It is the parent of Trimtect, so it's just a higher active ingredient, and it's formulated for trees. So we like to teach on this. We'd like to use it, and there's tremendous opportunity throughout the landscapes that you are currently maintaining. One of them I worked on with a company up in Maryland was, and this is everywhere. Think about any or many HOAs where you have trees planted in this devil strip, this 4-foot strip between the sidewalk and curb. And what happens over time is, you get compaction, low watering, these things decline. But the other thing that happens in here is the buttress roots from these trees end up lifting sidewalks. So you get this sidewalk lift over time, and then you have costly repairs. So this company really focused on trying to keep these trees small. So the nice thing about Cambistat is it's actually going to last, one treatment, one soil application is going to last for about 3 years. So not only does it reduce the vegetative growth up here, but it's also going to reduce the buttress roots, which ultimately will end up lifting the sidewalk. So, rough numbers, you usually charge in between, $6 and $10. So maybe this was in the $40, $50, $60 per tree, and material cost, would be maybe, $2, $3. So it's really low. Material cost, high value, again, all those secondary benefits, better root production, more defense compounds, all those kind of things, and it's going to live longer and not lift those sidewalks as fast. So this is another one up in the Carolinas, up near Charlotte, that on some pretty nice hollies up there. This is a year almost after treatment, and you can see here's a year and a half. So these these hollies, but this would work on any of your tree form species, where you're trying to keep a certain shape, and it's gonna be great. It's probably in the $10 a plant type of cost, but it's going to give you 3 years or close to 3 years control. So we love it. They went from, I think in this particular site, they were well over 200 hours in occurrence, and they went down to about 25 hours of pruning, because there still will be a few escapes and a little bit of tipping. Again, here's a streetscape in the Carolinas where one side of the street was treated with Cambistat, the other side wasn't. So you can see how nice this is staying off the buildings. That's working great. Here's some HOAs where you have, again, limited root zones, planted very close to the tree, to the house or the townhouse, some tree form hollies again, and just, getting ladders and just think about safety. You're doing, maybe 2 or 3 times, you might be trimming this tree with a ladder and extended shears. And if you can reduce that and only have to do it maybe once every 2 or 3 years, what an advantage that might be to your system. We have these trees that are planted in, these parking, these grates and everything. And these spaces are very limited with water and air and nutrients, and they end up suffering and don't live nearly as long as they should. This particular tree was treated 3 years ago, and you can see how much smaller the canopy is. So keeping it away from signage or lights versus this untreated tree. And you can imagine over time, these weaken and die if no attention is given to them. They outgrow their space, and with Cambistat, this could be maybe a $70 to $100 application. Cost very little, but provide benefits for not only you, but for the tree and for the customer. So it's a win-win-win all the way around. So I love Cambistat as a potential opportunity for enhancement revenue in your business. So I'm going to jump now. The last segment here we're going to talk about is our is our alternative to glyphosate. So we have a new product called Onmark that, Francisco, if you could just kind of walk us through the what makes Onmark, something somebody might want to consider using.
Thank you, Mark. Aside from Trimtect, probably Onmark is my favorite product currently. It's a product that really provides great weed control, and have put it to the test along with the team, and it's have excellent results. So what does Onmark offer? So Onmark offers quick knockdown and systemic weed control, and also an alternative to glyphosate. So it's not, which is not present here. Another advantage of this product is all contained in one bottle. Comes in a tip and pour, as well as in 30-gallon containers. So this has a strong pre-emergence that will last 3 months and give you good residual. It could be on soil areas, on hardscapes. It will give you that pre-emergent control. Provides control on a wide variety of emerged annuals and perennial broadleaves, grasses, and sedges. If you are in Florida, one of the weeds that is really tough to control here on the landscape, actually a couple of them, one being artillery fern, it will control it really well. And if you have date flower intrusion into certain areas around light poles, for example, that are really wet, it likes to get there. So it will control that very well as well. So what is included in inside Onmark? So we have 3 different active ingredients. So we have glufosinate, which is a contact herbicide that is non-selective. So basically, it helps the accumulation of ammonia inside the plant. So this will inhibit the photosynthesis of the plant and destroying the cells. It will take time for this product by itself to work. So it has a help on it. So we included ammonium nonate, which is accelerant. It will it's a contact herbicide, disrupt the cell membranes, causing rapid cells disintegration. So this is what will give you that quick knockdown effect on the weeds. A lot of our customers are really looking forward for that to change the day of or the day after, pretty soon after you do the treatments. So this is a key, has become a key tool to have on our toolbox for weed control and as landscapers on the properties. So as far as pre-emergent, you have the mesotopyr ammonium. So this is the one that is systemic. It interacts with the plant, moving through the xylem and the phloem. So it's translocated. So it will remain applied until it's absorbed by the plant. So it's absorbed through the foliage and as well as through the root system. So it's very effective on the results. So you see here, this is a treated and untreated area. The treatment is just like you will do in any non-selective herbicide. You will apply the targeted plant material that you are trying to control. It's very important to not treat the plant material surrounding. So you're on beds. We will talk about how to manage the beds, but like on hardscape, you want to treat all the cracks and crevices, even if there's no weeds present on those. So that pre-emergent is working for you for those 3 months. And if you have a community with pavers, I was in a community a few weeks back, and the client had to manage those pavers every 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks intervals, depending on the season. So that's a very labor intensive, and all the driveways, I mean, all the driveways are brick pavers. So there's quite an amount of time that you spend every month on there. So by using a tool like this, you could schedule that every 3 months and forget about it for those 3 months. So this is an example. about 3 weeks after treatment, how quickly it knocked down those weeds. The foliage is broken down already, it's starting to disappear. This was on Prince George, MD. Great results. Here's another section of that same property. You can see by week 7, the foliage, dead foliage, is already completely gone, so it's not visible anymore compared to 3 weeks. So it quickly disappears. That's something that I really like about this product, is the weeds are not gonna stay standing dead for weeks and weeks at a time. They are gonna start disintegrating after the week number 2 and start collapsing. So how do we manage the weeds inside the landscape? You can use it to do perimeter weed control around the tree rings. So very key distinction here, it will not move outside that area that you are treating. It will literally stay within that line that you treated it. So that's really a great advantage. As far as the rest of the weeds on the beds, you want to spot treat where target plant material is. You will be treating only areas that have weeds. The product is not labeled to treat the mulch beds on the entirety. So it's very important to treat the target areas only. If you are working around hedges or some vines in the landscape beds, and you have turf intrusion, you will like to use it there as a edging tool for your landscape. So it does really well. This is 2 months after treatment. As you see here, this is one of my trials. Surrounding, that's Jasmine, Confederate Jasmine, actually. So there's no effects into it, no phyto effects to the plant. I treated the whole area there, created that edge, and no weeds are returning. You have, if you manage irrigation systems, this is a great tool to have. You know, when you have 2-wire systems, is key to know where your irrigation valves are, because if you lose one, you know, it's hard to find them. And those decoders, when they start giving you some headaches, and you really need to go locate them. It's important to map them inside your irrigation system, but the other part is keeping them visibly inside the green turf when you have millions and millions of square feet of turf to manage. So great tool. That's 2 months after treatment. So, and what makes Onmark so special? First of all, we spoke earlier, it has a non-glyphosate product. I remember being on board meetings and they are looking for alternatives. So a few years back, this technology was not as available as it is today. So the innovation, putting the products together that fulfill that, you know, that's why we are here today with this product. Fast acting, 3 to 5 days. So that's a requirement with a quick knockdown. People is used to products that will do that. Nowadays, they are very expensive to use. So cost effective on this end, long lasting, 90 days. So you will save the labor. If you are like managing hardscapes, you will save the labor every 3-4 weeks at a time of doing the treatments. At the time, you might be like probably break even on the product, but if not saving, depending on what blend of products you are using, if you are using something very similar, you are gonna definitely save. But worst case, you will be break even. But what you're gonna save is the labor, you know, and having that time available where you can be using that person or that team member to do enhancements and do other work that actually generates revenue for your business. You are not carrying 3-4 different products with you to actually create a blend similar to this, or paying a high amount of money to be able to have the products available in addition to mixing them. So it comes on a 1-gallon container, tip and pours, and those you could recycle and eventually get into 30-gallon containers and have a larger amount available in your business. So the rates, they start at 3 ounces per gallon. As far as the landscape management, pretty much that's the rate that you are going to be using to manage the the weeds. Anything up to 6 inches or smaller, it will be ideal. So great for backpacks on sites, and it will 1 gallon Pro will give you around 40 doses to 42 doses for 42 backpacks actually. So how can we use it? So sidewalks and curbs, you would like to use it as a blanket treatment on every crack and crevices. When you are creating and consolidating tree beds, you have independent tree rings and they are close to each other and it's really hard to mow in between, and you're trying to maximize the use of your mowing crew. So this is a tool that you can use to create those beds. Gravel beds that are full of rocks or just hardscape in general, they're great for that. It's going to give you that pre-emergent, and those weeds are going to stop growing in between those rocks. Spot spray on mulch beds when the weeds are starting to come through. Where you treat, you're going to be protecting that for like 3 to 4 months. So that is key there. Along fence lines, you know how much time you will minimize save for that guy that's on the weed eater all the time, and killing your weed eater as well. The clutches go bad because they are hitting that fence all the time. So you will save time and labor. The equipment is going to last you longer. Also against houses and AC units. So those areas that are always wet because the drain is very prolific with weeds. It will help you contain those weeds very well.
Great. Well, thank you, Francisco. I too am really enjoying using this product. I was involved in some of the trials, and we're getting some great feedback and some great results. So getting back to the growth management control guide. So here's a QR. Take a picture of that if anybody would like. I'll leave it up on the screen for a second, and you can get that growth control booklet, or we can, if you share with us, I guess you have your email address, we can send this out electronically too, but here's the growth management control guide. You can download it for free with that QR code. So now is time, we're going to get into some question and answers, and let me just before I get into the question and answers, that Rainbow Ecoscience, so we are all about education, training, and support. So whether it's coming out to your team on education, on any of these types of products we discussed today, as well as the full range of IPM or plant health care in your organization, we'd be glad to work with you and help you on that. We do many of these webinars. Hopefully you'll be able to attend some others, which provide CEUs, and we do a lot of in-house education and training. So thank you all for attending. I want to just, if I could, take a peek at Matt, if you're there, would you mind just let me just try to go over some of these. Is there any issue with root overgrowth if you use PGRs consistently in the growth season? We haven't seen that. I'm not sure what you mean by Bob on root overgrowth, but haven't seen anything, and we're seeing over time. And actually, Bartlett has done quite a bit of research with us and has shown some nice root, fibrous root generation.
Yeah, and Mike, if I may expand a little more on that. So what with the use of Cambistat or Trimtect, what you are actually promoting is the development of the fibrous roots, secondary roots that actually are responsible for absorbing your nutrients and absorbing the water from the soil. And what actually will help is sort of, if you are like by sidewalks, is minimizing the growth of those anchor roots that actually will be lifting your sidewalks, and you help save some sidewalks over time.
Yep. And then I see a question here. There's a lot of the pictures today were on subtropical. Are there any anywhere in the north. So yeah, we work with companies up through New England, right? So anything zone 5, let's say. So I'm from Maryland, so we have Manhattan euonymus, Abelia, certainly Elaeagnus, hollies, but all those plants. So if you're in an area and you didn't see some of the shrubs, we really tried to highlight some of these shrubs in the Florida market or California market. But yeah, we see it on many areas. I'm going to say from companies from, say, the middle of the country, the Mid-Atlantic, Kansas, Kansas City, Indianapolis, Ohio, south is really where folks are really getting the most benefit out of Trimtect because of the amount of pruning that they're having to do. Can PGRs be applied during sunny, hot weather? Absolutely. This is a clay-based product. We're not going to see any issues with desiccation. We're spraying this in 110 degree heat. We spray this out in Palm Desert, so we have no phyto with heat. So heat and weather, sunny is not an issue. We're always using a non-ionic surfactant. Ours is called Audible, but you can use any non-ionic surfactant you want with this. We do that every time, and but we have no issues with spraying in hot sunny weather. And I see no other open questions. And with that, I want to thank you all. If any of you want to reach out to either Francisco or myself, here's our contact information. Glad to help. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And we hope you join us on future webinars. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.